For the board packet, it's just numbers breakdown for that. Yeah. I'll put extras up here. Everybody board has them in.
What do you? Did I leave you with?
All the work.
Yeah.
That's what I was eavesdropping. If they, either of us can do it. If you guys need updated access, you have a file that I can actually tell you what it is. Some government stuff. And some of those doors you don't even part of see if you don't. Yeah. I'll check it with you. But even like Kayla, she's got one as a coach, but does she be updated access based on need it?
Working session, we'll start with the citizens forum, and we've got a request from JP Sweet. So, go ahead. Why don't you, either give it to him or go up to the podium. Yeah, we need to turn ours off.
Thank you. So we are here on behalf of the Lake of the Woods County Fair Board. We are looking at putting on an event next door at the International Arena. And due to the, I believe it's the wording, Is this better? Okay. Due to the wording in the agreement for the arena, we are coming to you to seek permission to serve alcohol on the premises for the event we are putting on May 17th. We need to ask permission, that is how it is stated, for alcohol to be brought into the venue next door. It's Saturday, May 17th is the date.
Okay.
What's the event?
What's that?
What's the event?
We are looking at bringing an MMA fight to Lake of the Woods County.
All right. So, the only thing I know as far as the school board's concerned, yes, but that doesn't give you the license. You still have to jump through those
Yep.
hoops. And to my knowledge, there has never been an event that has had alcohol next door because the hoops are just about insurmountable. I mean, if you can do it, great.
Challenge
But,
accepted.
and then the only other thing is you have to require, like, so alcohol would be allowed in the arena, not in the parking lot.
Correct.
There hasn't
We
been
have
any
any
event,
activities?
not a wedding thing or anything?
I thought we had a wedding.
Not off the top of my head
What are they,
on a Saturday.
what is that? Self-provided?
Yeah,
Licensure?
somebody may have
It would be a Saturday night.
unofficially brought stuff in, but,
But their sale different from,
Yeah, I
Okay.
suppose.
because I know the,
I
who
feel
did
like
we
there
have
was a
from
wedding.
the
There
There was a
s-
wedding, I believe.
The city had somebody,
caterer.
the liquor store manager, it wasn't Tina, it was some,
Yes.
yeah, the liquor store manager came in and ran through the requirements, and the arena people were like, never mind.
So we did go through legislative action to allow that liquor to happen there. So that got special dispensation from legislative action. So that was the stipulation, was that then organizations could ask. I think the challenges we ran into, and this is a little bit of history for you, was the sale of liquor there in relationship to the city's rules on sale of liquor. So I think your next step is going to be the city.
But you're not in the city limits, you're in the county, so we don't.
So maybe it's the county. Yeah.
All I know is nobody
It was too short a notice, if I remember.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I was trying to remember when that was.
and the hoops were pretty big to jump through, so.
Those are all taken care of basically now.
Yeah. I mean, like I sat in front of the Commerce Board at Legislative Commerce Committee, and we got approval to do that. So we can, if you need documentation on that, Keith, me historically, but Keith can help you. Yeah.
So,
And I
what I would recommend is that if we're gonna entertain that it be added to the regular meeting agenda so that there can be a motion, a second, and a vote to approve it.
Do we approve it now, or do they get their license?
Why would you have to do it during the regular meeting, or bring it, once you get your license or stuff, bring it back in the next month or two, and then,
When's the event?
It would be May 17th.
Oh, so we got
so,
time.
but I mean, it should be a formal board vote to approve it
Yep.
at a future board meeting.
If it's something along the lines of the city, I think it's 30 days. I'd have to have the licensure and insurance within 30 days if it's similar process to the city. But my next pit stop then tomorrow will be the county.
Are you asking us to come back to another meeting?
It's up to the board if you wanna do it tonight, contingent on getting the appropriate licensure, or
Any discussion
have us
about,
sign it,
anybody opposed? I guess is the first question.
Just common
As long as they
practice.
follow the right
Yeah,
steps,
I mean, there's,
which I don't doubt.
Okay, we
There's
may
the
as well
rules
add
are
it
in
to our
place.
agenda, and
Yeah.
We'll add it to the agenda, and
then you don't have to come back.
I just don't wanna move into the next step if we don't have this one checked.
yeah, that's understandable.
And that next step might need approval from them, right? So if you're willing to, that makes sense.
My guess is I'm just going to need some form of a school board approves for the language in the agreement.
Yep. We'll amend the agenda and bring something up.
yeah, we'll add it to the agenda.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Good with the results? Support, at least. Okay. Any other citizen forum items? Yes.
So this just kind of like came about this weekend, so.
Sheena, could you do the microphone? Or Jill?
It's pretty official here.
Could you just state who you are and that sort of
Oh,
thing?
yes. My name is Nicole Olson. What else? Sorry.
That should do it.
Okay. And I'm a citizen. No, I'm teasing. So this just like kind of came about this weekend, so I understand if like maybe word hasn't quite reached, but I had heard a rumor that Head Start was no longer going to be offered for Lake of the Woods County. And like I was reaching out to Head Start really just because I've got a 3-year-old daughter who is like so ready for school, and another year and a half of daycare just isn't going to, it'll have to do now. But anyway, so then it brought up some discussion that Head Start was going to be leaving. And then it prompted further discussion about school readiness program, and was it going to essentially like absorb not having Head Start anymore. So this afternoon I had the privilege to talk with Beth, the Head Start program director, and she confirmed that yes, for the 2025 school year, Head Start is not going to be servicing Lake of the Woods County. And it was her understanding that the Head Start room was going to be going to a private preschool from Nicole Gate. And so then I reached out to Nicole Gate because her and I have had conversations in the past, and she said that she did have some meetings coming up here planning with Jeff and Sam. And then I was kind of a little concerned because one of the teachers whom I was talking to had mentioned that when she brought up the possibility of having like this another school readiness and hiring another teacher, that she was like immediately shot down for another teacher because the funding just wasn't there. So it seems to be attractive to the school where we have this room, we could lease it out, rent, and have income, and not attractive because we have an expense of another teacher and possibly a para if we have a school readiness. So I was just kind of hoping to sort out any sort of misunderstanding that I have, or if you guys as the school board were aware that Head Start was going to be.
Well, I'd like to give you an intelligent answer, but I didn't hear about it until rumor at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I know nothing about it. Does
it's
any
on
other school
my
board
docket.
member know anything about it?
I know about it. I only heard about it today.
Yeah, so we know nothing, and there are no details yet. I know we're supposed to be talking about it today.
Yes, it's on my docket today.
Okay.
I mean, this is when you say I'm impressed at the rumor mill, because this was,
Always, don't you know?
right, a Head Start decision was formally happened on January 16th. So this is the first board meeting we've had since that point. So I
So it's
will
been a
address
couple
that in my
weeks, though.
report.
It's been a couple of weeks since we've known.
Since Head Start made the formal decision,
Yeah.
our approach was going to be, none of our kind of approaches have been formalized in terms of what our plan is. And we're 10 days from this. So I will address that in my report, and then we can ask maybe some other questions at that point.
Just for future reference, that would be a good thing to let the board know
Okay?
as soon as you hear about it.
Well, Lloyd, we didn't know, and the communication from Head Start meant that there hasn't been the greatest. So we didn't even know when she was gonna have communication with her staff.
That's fine. I just don't like hearing about it from the public. So at any rate, not a big deal, and we will be discussing today, and hopefully we'll have some answers for you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Any other forum? Citizen? Okay. And we'll move along to the finance.
Okay, so this month, I've came up with a new condensed report. So prior, after we got rid of Frontline, which was a significant expense to the district, we were using an SMS spreadsheet that was pretty complicated. I felt like we would have issues every month with the numbers pulling in correctly. So this is my first month using our new spreadsheet, so I will go over it with you. So if you look at the, right at this top right here, so as of month end, December 31st, 2024, we are 50% expended through the year.
It's page 114 in the board.
Our local revenues
Not the working
by
session.
source is at 37.65%, which is very close to about this time of last year, 35.34%. We have another title draw to complete, which we do quarterly. We also found out that we will be getting additional funds. I usually under budget titles because we don't know what we're getting in June when we present the budget. So we did budget $90,000, and we are going to receive $120,726. So right now, total revenues are at $2,719,248.64. The total 37.65% expended for the year is right on track with budget, so that looks great. Slightly higher than last year, but also our revenue is slightly higher than last year. The next section, expenditures by site. Total expenditures by site is 37.26% and is running slightly lower than the last 2 years. So between district-wide, elementary, middle school, secondary, they're all going to be up or down slightly, but they all average out, and it looks great, right on track still. The next section, expenditures by program. Admin is at 53%, which is a little higher than last year, but I do want to keep in mind that is due to having an MOU for the superintendent to cover the head custodian. That was added in July, but we also have a reduction of sites and buildings, so it's just a shift in the expenditure. That's down significantly from last year, just because we didn't replace the head custodian that had left. But overall, all categories combined, we're at 37.26%, which looks great. The next section is expenditures by object. Everything is running around 37%, which looks good. Purchase services is higher, but keep in mind we get billed ahead for that. That's through the through the special ed co-op. So again, that's just slightly higher, above 50%, so that's right on track, looks good. Supplies and materials, we're at 37%. Capital expenditures, we are down significantly at 10%. That's just because we put a freeze on expenditures, any major expenditures for this year. On the next section, revenues by source, we just split out the section based on our food service, which is at 30.76%, community ed, 10.97%, debt redemption, 12.52%, custodial, 0, student activities, 92.83%. So as far as student activity goes, I budget that the best we can, but with those funds, we don't necessarily know what's coming in or out each year because it's fundraising. So like the class of 2025, I budget for them to spend all of their money, but yet I still don't quite know how much they're going to bring in, and their expenditures will be a little higher than that because they've been fundraising to go on their senior class trip. So student activities, we just try to get that to be as close as possible. But that amount is called Fund 21. So it's listed separate on here, separate from Fund 1, but yet it is mixed in on the reporting because for the state standards, it has to be included. But on this report, it is kept separate. Expenditures by, but the total revenues are at 17%, which is lower than last year. It's still looking very good, right on track. Expenditures by site. Food service, we are at 41.82%. That is also looks very close to the last 2 years, but keep in mind with food service, our expenditures occur over 9 months for the most part rather than 12 months. So we see a lot more spending in September through May. Community services is at 37%. Debt redemption is 100%. We just made our full bond payment this month. So we are 100% spent, but we're going to continue to see revenue coming in for that. Custodial funds, we do not have that. That is 0%. And student activities is 73%. So again, right now, our budget is running right on track. It looks great. Expenditures, we always over budget those slightly, and then revenues, we under budget them. So based on what our enrollment is, we are still under budgeting by at least 7 students, which is good. So that just increases our revenue by the end of the year. The student activity reports are attached. So just being a new board, if you have any questions on any of the reports, feel free to ask or email anytime, just because it gets to be a lot. This month, I'm glad I made the transition to this report because now the last several months I've been attaching like 9 different copies of reports. So this just condenses it and makes it a lot easier to read. So right here, I forgot to take this out. This is from last month, just indicating that the STAR report was submitted and building and grounds. Budget revisions will be presented next month. And then we'll also need to move ahead and start working on our 5-year budget, just so we can plan ahead and see what we're expecting as far as enrollment and any anticipated staffing changes and expenditures. This month, W-2s were sent out, I want to say 2 weeks ago. I'm working on ACA reporting. 1095s have to be out. Our 1091s, federal and state, were both completed last week. The Minnesota unemployment file was submitted last week. The paid leave file I will submit this week. We have a new process for that, and the state website will not accept my file, so I just have to do a manual entry, which doesn't take too long. But January is kind of a busy month with reporting, so, and I'm sick again.
That's right,
Last
you
month
were
I
sick
was
last
sick.
time.
So, yeah. But I also attached, last month we had a few questions on some old payments. So I pulled up our outstanding payments and I voided a few, which I attached, very last page. Athletic.net, that was just an old credit card transaction that, I think it was just a duplicate transaction that from July or August, so I just voided that one. Country Inn and Suites, we just made a couple entries for extra rooms, so that's voided. That didn't happen either. Teacher Synergy, that was a voided payment. And Brady Marks and Associates, their system had sent us a bill for $135 late fee. Well, they called me and said it was an error. So they shredded the check and I voided it. So that is our list for voided payments this month. Any questions?
Looking through the items in the packet and stuff, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but does the class of 2025, do they have money or are they way in the hole?
Class of 2025?
Yeah. Because I think they had it was $12,000 in red, and there may have been parentheses, so I never remember if that's good or bad.
That's good.
That's
Okay.
good.
Negative means good. We did have an error on the class of 2023. There was a payment made to the class of 2023, and I caught it after I completed month end, so that's already been fixed. So on this report, it's showing that they had activity and they didn't. But yes, negative red is good. That means they have funds available.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Sheena.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, superintendent.
In the working session packet, I had my enrollment report. We're at 424 students. Also in there, and I'm gonna go through it, kind of have discussion on some other things coming up here. School and the nurse report is in the packet. You can see that she stays very busy. She's had over 3,500 visits so far this year, so for lots of different things. So, quick update, Health Insurance Transparency Act, or HITA. That's a 2-year bid process that we're required to do by statute for health insurance. So next week you'll see in the paper a notice that we're looking for bids, and the due date is March 24th. And I can bring more details later, but it's a process that we have to run through.
Who manages it, the process?
North Risk Insurance Company is the people that we work with. So they help us with the bid collection and the comparison. FEMA appeal update. There's a lengthy attachment in your packet. Basically, we had requested over $284,000 to get the whole track resurfaced, and that was, we filled it once and it was denied, and the second appeal it was also denied. So basically, we have a little over $50,000 to repair just those identified spots on the track. So I would suggest that we schedule a facilities committee meeting to go through that and kind of come up with a plan on what we want to do with those dollars. And
I saw the document, but I didn't go through it with a fine tooth comb. Is there a deadline when we have to use the funds by? Usually it's a year or two.
I think when I put in the appeals, I had like June of 26 on there. I can double check, but usually when you're in the appeals process, they let you kick that can down the road. So that's what we need to meet and figure out, if we can repair those little sections and if it's worth it, and that'll cover that. So, Safe Routes to School Design Assistance Grant, we were approved for that. A couple caveats with that though. So this grant, and it's in your packet as well, it won't develop the full construction documents. And also the parking layout design is not eligible use, but it can be used to develop the sidewalk and path layouts around the parking lot, and around the school property, but some of the parking lot things that we are looking at would not be included in this. And this is another item that I think we should include with the facilities committee to go into it for details. So it looks like it might be helpful with some information that if we go for another bond, might be useful, but it's not going to meet all of our needs as far as some of the construction projects. But But we did get that grant, and we can get more detail as we go. School forest designation, I sent out some information on that earlier, and it's in your board packet. It is a board action for those two parcels. Is there any questions on those actions tonight?
So are we gonna let the fields south of the ballpark, or are we gonna plant trees, or let?
Well,
trees
that
grow,
will be,
or-
once it's designated as school forest, it could be put back to natural grasses and like prairie grass, or we could do reforestation. Depends on whatever the committee comes up for a plan on how to utilize it and make it a learning classroom for the students, so.
It's like most places around here, if we don't do anything, it'll go back to forest all on its own.
Yep, and that might be something too. I mean, there's some learning to be done with that as well, so. And then, that's for tonight. In the future, there's two other parcels that the school pays taxes that would not necessarily be good fit for a school forest designation. One is about 160 acres, I believe, out by Wabonica. So my thinking was bring it up in February, possible sale of that property. It's about $246 in taxes, and then there's another $200+ on a ditch assessment. So it's about $400 we're paying for that property, and it's not accessible, and it's probably not the best use for the school to hang on to that, but we'll work through that in the coming months. The resolution also an action item tonight for directing me to make recommendations for adjustments in curriculum programs and staff. Do you have any questions on that action item? We do have some teaching resignations tonight, and our current plan right now is to look at filling the Phi-Ed and the art position, but we are looking at absorbing the business ed program, and Mrs. Mergens is working on fitting that into the schedule. So we're looking at what must we keep, and if we can absorb something to help the budget for this next fiscal year, that's what I'll be recommending. So, also, I sent out information late. I didn't get in the packet. You have it on the table in front of you regarding the post-election discussion. I think that's something that with the new board we should set a workshop on that to determine what our next steps are. Regardless, we do have to run a special election for the District 6 school board seat. And I'm looking at recommending that probably next November 5th, I think, this year would probably be the soonest we would want to do an election. So we're looking at February 20th. I don't know if you had a chance to check your calendars. Would that date work? I know one person's going to be out, but it is a workshop. There's no action taken. It's just information for the school board and discussion. It is open to the public, but there's not much questions or answers given. It's just information for the board. So
That's again with Cross Anderson.
yes, and I put in the rationale in that write-up, and they've worked with other districts post failed elections and helped them reassess and come back with a better plan and get it passed in the
So this
future.
is similar to the meeting that we had like a month or
It's
so ago,
similar
just
but
for
more
everyone.
formalized. Yep.
That was February 20th?
February 20th is the tentative date if that works for everyone.
So far, so good.
Probably
Maybe
looking
during the
at
day.
6 o'clock.
Oh, 16.
It's fine with me.
So, okay. I'll send out information and we'll get that posted publicly too, so. And then I'll hit this one first. The School Forest Committee, and that's Severs and Hack. I'm just letting you know that we have a Wednesday, January 29th meeting at 5:30 in the district office. Short notice, but we need to meet because we have a ski event coming up in February that we need to.
What was that date again?
This Wednesday
This Wednesday?
at 5:30. So short notice, if you can get there, great. Basically, we're just gonna be making sure we got hot dogs and volunteers and stuff for the ski event. And
Where is it? Where is it at?
my district office.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll send out a reminder. I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay.
Because it's Monday already.
Do you have a date for that ski event?
I do, but I don't remember it. And I don't have it written down. I'll get that to you.
I think it's February 12th.
Is it the 12th?
That's what I have on mine.
Perfect. We'll go with the 12th. I was thinking the 16th, but I'll go with what Sarah
I'll double
has.
check.
Is that you guys do full moons and stuff?
Yes, it's the bear moon, I think, this year, which is fitting. So I think the 12th sounds right. Thank you.
That's a Wednesday.
That would be about right. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And then the last thing with my submission of my resignation, and I'll have lots of time to thank people and stuff like that. I would like to, I've reached out to Barb Dorn at MSBA, and I'm waiting to hear back to get some information on services they provide for superintendent searches. I think it's still early enough. I think it's a good time to start that search process, but I would strongly recommend that you establish an ad hoc committee with 3 board members tonight, and that you don't waste any time getting that ball rolling as far as start advertising and stuff like that. So we might have to have a special board meeting to get approval to go with the MSBA is what I'm saying. So
On that note too, should we start advertising for buildings and grounds and
well,
transportation?
I think
or do you
those are
have
things I'm gonna add on to our facility transportation committee meeting. We're gonna have some long meetings, so, those are things that we should probably be discussing. You might wanna wait till you figure out your superintendent and what they bring as far as what you wanna do with some of those other administrative positions. Because quite frankly, I don't think the district can add back all those positions this immediate year. I think what we've been doing, with me working with lead custodial and maintenance personnel has been working, hasn't been perfect. I think we can refine it, and I think someone coming in, working with those gentlemen and the rest of the custodial staff could probably get through next year until you get a good idea of what you want to do long-term with some administrative positions. So, any other questions?
Who here is on the, I know we just talked about this last meeting, or a week ago, but who's on the buildings and grounds?
I think
It's Johnson, Severs, and Hack.
So you haven't met yet?
B. Johnson, not K. Johnson.
Yeah.
B. Johnson, yeah, I got it. Oh, we got B. Johnsons. Okay, all right. Well, that's all I have. I'm not going to get into any end of my season here speeches. I'll save that for another time, but thank you. I appreciate working with you folks.
That brings up Sam. Oh, wait, Mary Merchant. You knew. Skipped down too far.
That's okay. Good evening. On January 15th, I attended the Community Health Needs Assessment evening where they went over the surveys and then did a lot of looking at where we felt our community's needs were and writing them down and tallying them. So the next steps are NDSU's Research Center will put all that information together, and we anticipate meeting again in May or June. So for me, it was very enlightening, very engaged meeting. So it was really a good evening of working together with community people and really reaffirming that we all kind of see where the needs are in the same places, and added a few things that weren't on it when they did this survey. They do it every 3 years, this process. Basketball game last week that the all school attended on Thursdays, and that's always fun when we can have such a good crowd, and the victories just added a little more frosting to the cake for us, and I'm sure for the teams to have all our students in there cheering for them. Sam, I'm stealing some of your thunder here, but it wasn't my report first. Because I'm going to do this one too. The one-act play took first for subsection, so we're very excited. And I really put it in my report because we had the 6th through 12th graders go and attend the play. So that was a good afternoon too. Last week was a really fun week because we ended it then with elementary's PBIS recognition activity, and we did bingo in the commons area. So that was a lot of fun for our elementary students.
What's PBIS?
Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And you'll see posters and things around the room, around the building and in classrooms, and respect, responsibility, and safety are the 3 focuses we have for the students. And then our elementary attendance in our policy, there's things that don't quite match up with the high school, and we want to put it so we're on the same page for not confusing parents, for not confusing Tracy and myself, quite frankly, as well. So that the days are the same as far as when we send notices to parents. So to be consistent, we're going to change it to 5, 8, and then 10 days. And the 10 days has been standard for the 2, but the 5 and the 8 weren't always the same with elementary and high school. So if you guys don't have an issue with that, I'm going to let Tracy create the letters so it goes the same, and then I'll update that in our handbooks. And then high school courses, I'm working on next year's schedule. Like Mr. Nelson said about absorbing the business position, we're going to do that with social studies because the economics class typically is a social studies class, and that's now required. And then that's 1 semester. The 2nd semester required is personal finance. And Mr. Longseth is all on board to take those on. He's pretty excited about that. He has a passion for economics, which I cannot understand anybody having a passion for. So, and then teachers and having discussion with the vendor being used for credit recovery. It also offers us a lot of elective classes for students, but concerns when required classes are being taken. So for example, like our English, math, social studies, science. And I'm going to say especially when we're looking at the English and math and when we know we're under some scrutiny with our MCA scores not being what they are. Well, if we're having our teachers teach them, we know that the standards are being met. We know that they're achieving what the requirements are with the benchmarks because of their grades. So probably next month looking at further conversation, making the board aware what teachers are looking at putting when we're looking at registering for classes is that the required classes have to be taken by a classroom teacher. So that I really do want to, whether you have questions for me and I take them back to the teachers or additional discussion, because it can also, well, and it can also be complicated because we can say that, okay, we want to approve this, we're going to go that the students can't take anything through a vendor, but they still on their own, students and parents could choose to go to somebody outside like an online, and then we still have to pay for that, and that'd be an additional expense. So it's not necessarily an easy, I'm going to call it fix by doing that. So I just want an awareness and input on what the board thinks and direction to go with that. And that's all I have for my report, ending with that heaviness. So if you think of things and further information or questions, please get a hold of me or stop by so we can have further conversation on it. I'd appreciate that. Okay, any other questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Now it's Sam.
Okay, I have one additional piece of paper for you. I did put, you'll see another piece called the long-term pool update. I added that. Woody got a copy of what I'm handing out as well as Joe, you got a copy as well. So, everyone's in my loop. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna save the pre-K conversation till the end because I can go through the rest of it pretty fast and I think that's gonna take some time. Mary stole my thunder on One Act Plays. I'm a little mad because I'm super pumped about this. One Act Plays took first at their subsection competition in Roseau last week. It qualified them to go on to sections in Crookston, where they'll be this Saturday. So they are performing in Crookston at section competitions where they could potentially advance to state. So this is super exciting for that crew. They've had a number of years in a row where they've been third at subsections, top 2 teams advance. So this was fun, not only to advance, but also to win. You know it's a big deal when kids come to school the next day wearing their medals. I think it was a really fun, the play is called The Glover's Mange Cure Caper, a little bit of a mouthful. They will be performing it for the community on February 6th and 7th, Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. We'll also have the Charlotte's Web community play perform those nights as well. They'll be at 7 p.m. So, great couple nights of theater. If you get the chance, come and support our students that way. Coaching hires, you can see the list. We are excited to be in the thick of it. Andrina Nylander is varsity volleyball. Ryan Sather is varsity softball. Tony Browse, Eric Tangy, assistant varsity baseball, and Chuck Merchant is junior high baseball. Got a few more rolling until in the next meeting, so we will keep you updated on that stuff as the spring goes, but are excited to be constructing a good slate of coaches for the spring and fall seasons. Okay, 2 pieces of the pieces. Let's start with this long-term pool update. So Lisa Beckstrand, who has been our pool coordinator and manager for many years, many years, has records of pool attendance going back to 2001. So what you have in front of you in this little table is just a snapshot. If you really want to dig into the nitty-gritty, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. I picked out these years, you'll note, before COVID and after COVID, so that you can get a sense of what's the comparison between them. We talked a lot, for those who were on the board at the time, about how COVID was affecting pool members. So adult swim is the morning sessions, open swim are the afternoon sessions. Those numbers, adult swim number of swimmers, you can see that our adult swim numbers have gone down pretty significantly, although they have bounced back quite well between 23 and 24 over the last 2 years, so that's pretty exciting. And then again, about a 1,100 person jump between 23 and 24 in this last year for open swim, as well as we are back at 2018 levels in terms of attendance. Now, that does not account for repeats, right? Johnny might be going to every single Friday afternoon of open swim. It's just number of bodies in the building each throughout the course of the year. So that's, like I said, just a snapshot. I wanted to give you a concept of where we're at and why it continues, why the trudge over the course of the last couple of years in terms of trying to get guards, trying to keep our doors open, has been worth it, right? We're kind of back where we were at pre-COVID, which is exciting. And if you want more information on that, let me know. There's a lot. I really appreciate Lisa's dedication to that, because it does allow me to have some really concrete numbers about how we're assessing success in that, and or where we might need to make changes. So, okay, 2 other exciting pieces of information. This extra piece of documentation I just gave you is called the Form B. It's a grant. It's through the Minnesota State High School League. The backside is the most exciting part of this. I applied for several pieces of funding, some leadership development, that's the hard hat book, transportation, vehicles, and I would like to get all of our coaches CPR first aid trained. It is an expensive class, and so I asked for funding for that and received it. So we got approved for $2,875 for all of those projects. So excited to get that into action in the next year. I also applied for a grant through the Region 2 Arts Council to pay for our summer theater program that we do. It's a 1-week summer camp style theater program. We do it in the middle of August. We did receive $5,500 from the Region 2 Arts Council, so that will entirely cover that program in the summer. We've been funding that out of community ed, trying to get some registrations and get sponsorships, this will allow us to do it for kids for free, which is a really sweet deal. Okay, any questions on that stuff before I turn to pre-K Head Start?
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Way to get
I
that.
appreciate
Good work.
that, because if you've written a grant, you know that they're not easy, and they're sometimes a little bit of a crapshoot. So, pre-K Head Start. So, yes, Head Start formally announced that on January 16th, that was their board meeting, that they are closing our Head Start classroom. That is Northwest Community Action, an independent organization, runs the Head Start classroom. We let them use our space. They are in a corrective action plan because they are 25% under-enrolled across all of their sites in Northwest Minnesota. So what they got tasked with was, you're 25% under-enrolled, don't have enough kids in your program, so you have to cut classrooms in order to meet your enrollment numbers. They get, obviously, federal funding through the Head Start program for that. Huge bummer. I mean, that classroom has been in our building for, I think, over 50 years. Many of us were educated by Pam Hornfett herself. So it really is a loss, for sure, for us and for the community. I also called Beth to ask some questions about, are there some creative solutions? Can we do some para-sharing? Can we do some, and she's open to that stuff. I don't know if that decision is long-term, like is this a year or 2 years and then maybe they open another classroom up? She didn't have specific answers for that. That would be my hope, right, is that maybe the federal government changes their low-income number, because that's really what we're fighting on this. Low-income number, so it makes it higher, more people qualify.
Is it lower than the free and reduced lunch or something? 'Cause
Yes.
I thought we were like 60
Yes.
or...
It's the poverty line.
level. It's the poverty line.
Yep. And I'm gathering some data. There's been some studies on how people have moved out of above the poverty line, but still are in great need of services and help. So we have a gap, especially in this community. They don't qualify for it, but they still have to decide, how do I buy groceries? How do I provide daycare? And it's ALICE was the acronym, and I don't remember what it meant, but there is a study that I'm putting together that I'll send out to the board. In the spring of '21, the school district with County Social Services and Ryan Zemek, I can't remember the name of the Headwaters.
Headwaters Regional Development.
Yes, and then there was another lady that specialized in daycare centers. We did a study at looking at, can the school provide a child center? And that's back when they were talking about the Lineman School or here. So I have some data that we collected and some costing out that you want to take a look at. The hard thing is with the school readiness that's on our county census data, we get X number of dollars that we get for that program. And our VPK school readiness program has not historically ran in the black. So either way, what's going to happen, the only solution is to bring in programs, but there's going to be fees to cover the costs, and that's the hard part. And I guess the question is, does the district take on that responsibility? I don't think we're in a financial situation where we can, or if there's a private person that can come in and provide child care center. But still, it's going to be fee-based either way.
So that's the other piece of the fee-based, is that Minnesota legislation changed this past year, so that the VPK, which is voluntary pre-kindergarten, that's what Ms. Fiala's classroom is, voluntary pre-kindergarten, school readiness, they're different sources of funding, all in the same room. In order to qualify for VPK money, you now have to qualify for some similar Head Start, similar to Head Start, either via income, at risk, special education, special needs in some way. And that's a relatively new as in just this year, so we are still kind of deciphering what those categories mean, as in, there's a line at the bottom of that list that says, school district determines student to be at risk. Okay, well, does that mean the school district can determine that? What does that risk mean? What kind of proof? You know, so maybe we have more flexibility in that than we know, but we're still trying to figure that out. So I think long-term, that's, I think what Jeff is pointing at is that I'm not, the board could decide to say, we want a second school readiness classroom. I don't think funding-wise, it would be a big funding, piece of funding to take on, especially via community ed, where you're not necessarily getting more, you're not going to get more state dollars for those kids, especially 3-year-olds. That's the other thing, is VPK is allowed for students who are 4 on September 1st. You can't be younger. The kids can't be younger to qualify for that. So all of a sudden now, you could have younger kids pay more potentially if you wanted to add a second classroom. Obviously, taking advice from Jeff in terms of what that looks like, how that would impact the budget is our next steps. For the short term, AKA between now and May, in terms of how we decide what to do for next year, I am encouraging people to submit an application. So anybody who's listening, if you have a student that you would like on our list, put an application in. I have them at the office, I have them online. We are in the process of figuring out the budget of what it will cost a family. We offer a flat sliding fee scale based on what our budget numbers look like next year. I will, if your name's on the list, once we figure that out, I will get that information to families who are interested, and then they can decide at that point if they want to stay on the list or not. We are also in conversation, and now that it's been named, with Nicole Gate. Those have not been formalized. So there's a lot that goes into that, both in terms of, is this a right fit for her? Also, if our building gets blessed to have another learning center in it, daycare in it. We are currently at the maximum for how many daycares we can have in the building, but does a pre-K learning center qualify differently? Those are questions that Nicole will have to get licensed and kind of figure out. But I hope it's encouraging to know we are in conversation. I had a chat with Nicole on Saturday to kind of, okay, now that we know for sure Head Start is not here, let's move forward with some of these conversations to see if it's a feasible option for us.
And the rationale behind having a private entity come and do it, because it's the liability for the district is less. And I think you want to keep that in mind. I don't think it'd be something that we would charge for rent. I mean, I think that we cover our expenses, kind of like what we do with the daycares. We're providing a service. So it's not, we're trying to make money to cover our budget. That's not the rationale for that. It's that I don't think the district can or wants to be under that liability financially at this time. Because you get into, if you have them, they employ people, they would be part of the unions within the organization, and there's a whole bunch of other things that makes it a little more challenging for the school, and there's a little more red tape and a little more cost, I think, than if we have the space, when we do have the space, having someone come in and run the program and develop that partnership. That's the rationale for looking at those types of options. So.
Just to, you guys kind of answered before, but so free and reduced lunch, and then this level is even below that level. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm gathering information, so I will. Okay. I think that's the way it is, but I like to verify. So, and I apologize if this was a surprise to the board. That's on me for not bringing this up. But like I said, my conversations with Beth was I wanted to make sure that the people that work there were notified, and but I still could have given the board information. So I apologize that this came as a surprise.
Any other questions?
What is the fee for the existing daycares and stuff that are in the building? It's very minute, right?
It's like $100.
$110, or I can't remember. We just upped it a little bit.
And it'd be similar.
It'd be very similar. It's just if we go in with the custodians and clean, or we grab the garbage, or a little bit for the electric bill and stuff like that. And it works. I mean, it's a service that we're providing the community. We had outside agencies in the community to support some of the fire requirements, so that wasn't something that the school had to pick up the bill. So I think the building and the community, we have to work together and try to come up with solutions for what we need here.
Does the fire stuff like apply to just certain areas where the?
It was very specific where the daycare centers were. They had to be.
So we don't know if like having it in that part of the building makes us have to have additional.
No, we should be good there, because those are all, I can't remember what the certification is for the Head Start room, but it's very similar to a child care center.
It was like the number of kids under a certain, like 4 or 5 or something.
So if we close the school because of X or whatever it might be, they're closed too, or are they still open?
Yeah.
I mean, like for weather closures?
Weather.
Sure.
Yeah.
Weather.
Usually, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
You're saying any closure?
No.
Any closure.
Yes, they get notified that the building is closed.
Okay.
But they are open on days like when we have a teacher in service and the building is open. They are allowed to be in the building.
Yeah. And I think late starts might be an exception, because parents got to get to work, but it's up to the parents if they want to get stuck in the parking lot or not. But usually if the school building's closed, we have no custodial staff, then they close down. I think a lot of them are kind of running off of the school calendar, so, yeah.
Well, I don't know if that gave you all the answers you wanted. Probably not. I would also, I mean, do you have any other questions?
No, when I talked to Beth, she was certain, because I asked the question, like, okay, so Head Start leaves the community, in a couple years, do you reevaluate? You come in, you do another income survey, whatever that looks like, and she said, no. Once Head Start leaves the community, they will not be back to the community or survey the community unless there is some type of catastrophic economic event, say A&I shuts down, and now numerous people are out of jobs, or resorts shut down. So that's why it's just like an extremely huge loss for our community.
That was not the vibe I got out of her, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then I asked, so kind of touching on like this federal government, like push comes to shove sort of thing. So when COVID hit, like a lot of agencies, the federal government stopped tracking numbers as far as like low income. And so for 2020 and 2021, they didn't have to report those numbers to the federal government. And now once the federal government started getting those numbers in 2022, 23 and 24, that's where it's been operating at like 25% of the students actually in there are low income and meeting the standards or whatever that looks like. And every other student, so then I asked, okay, the students above and beyond that you're filling those rooms with, are they paying a tuition, essentially? And she said, no, the federal government is covering those students. And then it kind of like brought me back to just trying to like understand, I've got a daughter in school readiness, right? So I was anticipating to pay a fee based off of, so I haven't yet, which I'm thankful for, but if, like, does that fee, do we pay that at the end of the year? Like, how does school readiness, how do those fees get met?
So in the current VPK structures, in the current voluntary pre-kindergarten structure, we are slated for 20 VPK spots right now. We originally had 15, we reapplied because we had a full class that were all 4-year-olds. If we get VPK funding for a kid, we cannot charge them. So, no, you won't get charged, which is great.
Because I know we had like, shortly after the school year began, we had applications to complete, so that was for additional VPs.
Yep, and that's a different form of funding.
Okay.
So that's for Pathway 2 funding, which is additional funding based on the number of hours that we offer per school day. So VPK is supposed to cover, I think it's 4 hours of the day. And then Pathways is available for kids who qualify that are going for more hours of the day. So, and that does not also include school readiness, which is a third form of funding that comes in for all of that we get as well. So,
the Pathways funding follows the kid. So if you go from a different program to another program,
yes,
those stay with that kid.
Yeah, yeah. And so that additional application was to figure out, are there people who qualify within our program for TAPA's funding?
And again, it's another income requirement, so.
Yeah, and that's income-based. Yep.
Sorry. Now that there's like information out there a little bit to the board here, I wanted to also add like this potential of a private preschool coming in now, and my daughters, like my family, have utilized the childcare that's in the school here, so like I'm grateful for those opportunities. But I was kind of like met with a sour taste in my mouth. It's like, what does that look like to other community members or maybe students who aren't able or their families can't afford some like private like preschool, and what does that look like if they're in like the public school district a little bit? So that was where I was kind of like wondering or wanting more information, seeking more information, but to my understanding, you haven't had those talks. But
We are in conversation, but that stuff takes time.
Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, I could see perception happens a lot. It's happened with the Head Start program for many years, where
like
people
that
say,
want, but I'm low income, right?
I don't want to be in Head Start because I qualify for it, which is not unfair, because it's, we've done this intentionally. Our VPK classroom and our Head Start classroom are near identical for the student experience. They both get transportation, they both get lunch here. I think the only difference is that we run the same assessments. The only difference is that Head Start does a third winter assessment on the gold than the VPK does, because they're not federally obligated to, so they can do two, one in the fall, one in the spring, to show progress. So that's really, kid experience-wise, it's near the same. Now, I don't know about how that would look with a private, that's would remain to be seen. So I think that's a fair concern. I can't predict what that would be.
Nicole, I think we've been blessed, we've been able to provide preschool without charging families. And I don't think in the future that we'll be able to continue to do that. Because there's not technically public school funding for preschool. It's not part of other than the DPK. And now that's changed where it's more income-based. So as much as the school board has supported it since I've been principal, 2007, I don't think we've ever had to charge fees for preschool. And we provide transportation, and it's worked. But unfortunately, it's changes with the legislature and the school funding, we can't sustain that right now.
And like I said, I was fully anticipating to paying fees this year, so I was pleasantly surprised that I haven't received a bill yet or what that might look like.
We won't this year.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, but I'm saying like, I think that a lot of, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but myself included, I would be happy to pay like fees for my child to go to public school rather than paying who knows what fees might come with a private preschool.
So what we'll attempt to do is to come up with, here's our fee schedule for our program. And we can cost it out, what it's gonna cost to add more staff and support staff and all that, and come up with, this is what it's gonna cost us to sustain the program. And I would think a private company would be able to say, this is what I'm gonna charge per kid. And see which one works best for the community, I guess.
And Jeff, touch on, if you would, the difference between, you did kind of touch on a little bit, the difference between like even the daycares, the private daycares versus if it was a daycare center that was kind of run by the school. Then there's a whole bunch more requirements that the school would have to do over and above what a private person has to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, just because we're constrained to employee contracts, and when we hire people, we have to follow the contract that concludes with. Whereas a private person doesn't necessarily have that, so how they pay their employees can be different. So as far as fringe benefits and stuff like that, so I think that's the biggest difference between the school trying to run a child care center versus private is more red tape.
I remember when my oldest two were at that age, like exciting time. I had to pay. I had to pay for it, and I opted out of it because it just didn't financially wasn't good for me. So you might find that quite a bit too. And then also the free and reduced meals, the people that can sign up for those really need to sign up for them, even though they're getting their free meals, because that goes into the state, and then the state sees that we're actually financially needing these programs. And that's above and beyond what we've talked about. That why do we call it free and reduced meals when it's like a lot more than that? So people need to start filling these forms out and giving them into the school.
And that's what I was kind of talking to Beth about too, is that like, for me, a first-time parent, you know, and going through the screening last year, I had so many questions and no idea that school readiness and Head Start were two different programs. And it wasn't until I was literally here physically at the screening where Miss Sunny was like, you come in, like apply, fill out this application, please. And so that's why I asked Beth, like, do you have counties or people that are just doing joint applications and applications go to Head Start first? And she said, yeah, we do, but those are things that need to be cleared with the schools and the organization beforehand. Because I was trying to be like, what can we do to like get this program to stay, you know? And she said, unfortunately, it's just like too far gone at this time, sort of thing. So, but I just, like this year, I couldn't find my letter from last year's, but I saw the letter for this year's, and it's just like clear and plain as day that these are like two separate programs, and like please apply for both kind of thing. But
Well, and a little bit of tooting my own horn, Head Start had the most applications for their Lake of the Woods classroom that they'd ever had last year. Part of that was due to the demand. You remember some of that conversation, because we knew we had a big class. We knew that there were going to be a lot of kids and not as many spots. But some of that is also because we're like, Head Start is a great program. Go get in it, because it's the same thing, you know? Anyway. If you have more questions, my phone call, I'm looking at the video for people watching, please call me. I am happy to talk through all of these options, all of your questions. It is better than trying to pull your information, no offense, from the rumor mill. I appreciate you're here because you're trying to get your ducks in a row. But the rumor mill can be messy, so please call us to ask questions. We will give you as much information and as many answers as we can. So, thank you.
Just call the school number?
Yep. Tracy will get it to me. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Food services?
Okay, I'll make this quick. Sorry, that's fine. Food services doesn't talk up here very often, so. No, just to touch on what Jared was talking about with the free and reduced applications, those are actually called education benefits applications. So again, just to reiterate, it's more than just lunches. So yes, fill those out. Okay, so we had our food services audit, and I thought it went amazing. And so I'm just gonna brag for Jackie because she had 0 findings out of the audit. She runs that kitchen like it's a sailor's ship, and but she does a phenomenal job in there. And it's not just making sure the kitchen's clean. So I gave you guys, here, you can look at these. I was hoping the pictures would be bigger, but you know, I was struggling with the computer to talk to the printer, but here's pictures. So when we send kids through, we have to make sure that their meals are reimbursable meals. Otherwise, we don't get funding from the state for this. So technically, this top picture is considered a reimbursable meal for lunch, and it doesn't look like a lot, but you have to have 3 components. So this tray has 3 components. It has fruit, it has noodles for a grain, and it has meat in the sauce. So if a student comes through with this tray, then I can mark them off. Yes, that's a reimbursable meal. And then I submit that to the state at the end of the month. But we do an offer versus serve plan. So this bottom tray is, if you ever have students, if you hear them come home and they're like, I don't get enough to eat. Well, they chose this when they were actually offered this. So that gives everybody at home, and idea of, yes, we do offer them full trays, but sometimes they don't choose to take everything. But I just wanted to make sure you guys as new board members know that when we're talking about reimbursable meals and getting funding for food services, there are restrictions, and I'm not even gonna go into like, it has to be a cup of fruit or you know, all these different things. So that's just kind of for your information. With the audit, I feel like we had very minor findings. One was we now have a formal hearing procedure, which this letter will go out with the education benefit applications. So what that means is if we get an application and it's denied and someone wants to come back and appeal that, there's a formal procedure. So we follow the MD template. That was one of our findings. One was just how we were dating the applications when they come in. So, I mean, very minor things that were very easy to change. You have policy 534, which was in the board packet, hoping for approval for that. That just touches on meal pricing and if they haven't paid their meal bill, how we're gonna go about what that procedure is. And then the wellness committee, I added the last meeting minutes, so that shows that we are working on the WellSat, which we have to have that completed. It's basically a way for you to internally gauge, okay, are we meeting these standards? If not, what should we be doing? That's kind of what that takes care of. So really, I thought it was very minor findings that were very easy to update. We got our approval letter, and that's done with. I wonder if it's every 3 or 5 years you get audited. So I thought it was great. It was my first one I went through. I didn't know what to expect, and she was out of here by right after lunch. The auditor was telling me that some schools had up to 25 findings, which included in the kitchen, so I thought we did amazing. So, just so you know that. Okay, any questions on any of that?
Thanks. Kudos to Jackie. Yeah.
Yes, she's doing an amazing job. So, okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Then we'll adjourn the working session. Anybody need a break? No.
Oh,
sure.
Sweet.
Yep. Sorry, John, you didn't see you sitting up in the corner there. Turn your mic on.
All right, you might have to turn that back on.
Hour?
Yep.
Yep.
There you go.
You're good.
All right, I'll throw a bunch of numbers at you if you're ready. All right, our total fleet mileage is at 2.2 million miles, or 2.2 and some change miles. That includes all the vehicles. Our bus fleet consists of 13 buses and 2 minibuses. We're at a total of 1.5 million miles with an average of 101,000 miles per bus. And now that numbers kind of get concerning because it's going up quickly, because 2 years ago our average was 86,000, so we're going about 7,000 a year on each bus. And last year we put on 156,000 miles on the bus fleet. And 3 of our highest mileage buses are right around 180,000 miles. And the oldest bus is 2008, so we're getting buses 16, 17 years old. And the last bus we purchased was in 2021, so we're going on about 5 years. And I want to say 7, 8 years ago, we were usually consistently buying a bus about every year. So we're starting to fall behind, I'm thinking. And we're thinking, what, fiscal year 2027?
That would be the ideal time to purchase a bus.
Purchase a bus and get on a rhythm of ordering new buses. Good news, our Suburbans, which are Type 3 vehicles, they're at 223,000 miles, an average of 74,000, so our Type 3 vehicles are in great shape, so we're good on those. So, you got any questions on anything?
How many, I know you said it, and I was trying to write down until I realized I couldn't keep up. So how many buses?
We got 13 total. Yeah, we got 6 routes. So.
Okay.
Thought we had 5.
Nope, 6 and then 1 minibus route. So actually 7, I guess, if you want to call the minibus route 1. So. or 6.
Okay.
So back, you said that, years ago, we would purchase about a bus a year?
Yeah.
And that's when we had how many bus routes?
When I first started here 20 years ago, we had 12, so we're down to half what we used to be at. We used to put on 250,000 miles a year, so. I think
And
we've
did we
been at
have,
7.
so since you've cut have we disposed of buses along the way?
Yes, well, yes.
So,
But we have fewer buses, but
Fewer
they're running
buses.
But we're still.
just as many miles
Couple
as when
miles
we had
on
more buses.
yeah,
We're actually
That's
probably going
even-
farther, I bet.
Yeah. So, we need to start getting some buses replaced.
yeah.
And on average, the bus, they last about 200,000. So like I said, those 3 buses, 2 years from now, they're shot. So we're gonna be looking at some new ones. And we should be able to hopefully reduce, if we could probably trade in 2 for 1 or something, because we don't need as many too. So we'll look at that when the time comes.
I have a large spreadsheet that Dale made that goes like across my bulletin board in my office, so once I can figure out how to scan it, I can send it to you, but we might have to condense it a little bit, but we'll add some of that information at our next facility and transportation meeting. We'll have to split it up and start looking at that, but that's definitely a need coming up shortly, is to get back on a cycle for purchasing buses. Because I just got some emails from Dale on some major rear end and brake repairs that as the miles are stacking up.
So what's your lead time on a bus? I mean, I know for where I work, big trucks are 2 to 3 years out.
Yeah.
I mean, our buses, I imagine they're not quite that bad?
No, I don't think
Right now, they used to be 90 days.
Oh,
I think it's pushing close to 6 months.
oh,
The
that's
only
like,
thing is, by the time we buy a bus, we're gonna be under the EPA 2027 rules, which could add substantial numbers to that purchase price.
yeah.
Any other questions?
You're talking as far as the tier engines for the EPA and stuff, what might change?
In 2027, the new EPA regulations come out for diesel-equipped vehicles. And they're also gonna mandate a 10-year warranty on emissions, which is not gonna cheap, and the stuff they're proposing to put on these vehicles, you're gonna have a very large price increase that year.
But on the gas buses, there shouldn't be any
No,
emissions.
the only thing that with gas, we might go the same way Europe did, which would be a gasoline particulate filter, which is the same thing as a DPF except for gas, but I haven't seen anything that robot has just been mentioned a few times. So they're not doing too bad, but.
The last 2 buses we bought were gas, and I got to drive one, they're very nice, and I think they're kind of we're actually kind of going back to the old times, going back from, it used to be gas back in the day, and then diesel, and now we're back to gas, and I think that's kind of the way we're gonna be going for some time forward, I'm guessing.
Well, it's good at least that you don't have to wait, a couple years to get one.
Yeah, yes.
Makes it a little bit easier to plan if you can get one in 6 months or whatever.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Do we want to make the changes? Do we make the changes to the agenda now or later?
Yeah, if you're gonna approve the agenda.
Because we needed to add the fair event.
The fair, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got the right date in May.
I thought they said the 17th,
Find out the date.
May 17th is what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that should do it.
So,
Should we say for the MMA? MAA? MMA event
Mixed martial arts, right?
as opposed to.
I don't even have a clue.
I would call it the Fair Board,
yeah, the
Call it
in
Fair
case it
Board.
changes.
fair event.
Fair board event.
Sale,
Fair Board event.
You mentioned a committee to be established.
Oh, for the superintendent search?
Yeah, is that something you think we should do this meeting, or does that need
I
to be
think
added?
I don't think it needs a.
You don't have to do it in here.
No,
on the agenda.
you just need to let me know who it is, and then when
Okay.
I get a hold of MSBA, then I'll post the meeting, and unless you wanna have a special board meeting, full board meeting, when I get the information with MSBA, and then you can decide how you wanna approach it, but I think within the next week even.
I guess I don't
Sooner
care.
you
I
start,
mean, if
the
it
better.
makes sense for the board to hear everything at one time and then just have it, I guess, but I
That
don't know
would be
what,
wise.
I don't know what they're presenting, so it's hard to make that
So
decision.
as soon as I hear from Barb Dorn, then I'll get information out and we'll schedule a special board meeting and post it and. But I think it needs to happen sooner.
Do they need to be added now?
Second week of
'Cause
February.
as
In
of
like 2
right now,
weeks.
they're not gonna get,
Yeah.
they're not gonna get added.
Are we saying just like what it would cost for
They
them
need,
to,
they need to be added this
Or
month.
and a timeline, I imagine.
are they
Timeline and then,
managing the entire search? Or,
Okay,
that's
we're gonna
possible,
take a
I
break.
mean,
or is that something that like we would
Maybe we
Like
should
you
start at
post it.
5:30.
they would post
internally
it on
with
theirs.
your, and then it gets like pushed out to other places?
I will get information from Barb and share it. But they do all the notices that I've seen have come from them.
Well, that would be like shared with them.
Jeff, do we need to
From-
get the coaches on the list or
Sam had all these coaches on a working session,
Okay,
would they need?
they weren't on the
or
agenda.
they're not on the hire.
No, so should we add those before? we-
Yes, just read
So
out.
that's the list of them, if we just wanna take that.
Write it up where you want.
Okay.
You don't have to throw the names in, just put it where you want, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Just on the bottom. Solid.
Oh, well, do we do the hiring and resignations in one big motion, or are they
Yeah.
separate?
No, it's
They're in the
okay.
consent agenda,
Okay.
but you can always pull something off the consent agenda.
Do you want the names of who you are hiring?
I saw it. I don't remember them all now, but I saw it somewhere in all this information.
I'll just list them. So it's Andrina Nylander, varsity volleyball, Brian Sather, varsity softball, Tony Rouse, assistant varsity baseball, Eric Tangy, assistant varsity baseball, Chuck Merchant, junior high baseball.
Was that not the same as it was last year? No?
No, Joel's.
Changed slightly.
No, I mean, all the baseball. That's,
Tony wasn't,
oh, okay. I mean, I know I would see them. I went to a couple games and I'd see people and I thought,
and Tony wasn't an official coach, but he
oh,
was,
like a volunteer.
yeah.
Okay.
So Kayla, they'll design the ad if that's what you're asking. I mean, they can,
The posting.
Right,
The
but we would
posting.
have the posting be submitted through our school, through our like application site, because they would apply to be a,
so the way MSBA does it, and I guess you can do it either way. Candidates, if candidates set up an account and they put their profile on there, and then they fill out school-specific information all through MSBA's site.
and then they present it to us.
And then, yep, in fact, I think they will even, you won't get 10, but let's say you get 10 applicants. They might, based on your criteria, screen and give you, all right,
Screen the candidates.
here's your top.
Okay.
I would recommend going with MSBA for this.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, what their like, if they're saying our service is to push it out to other sites and like share.
Yep. No,
I just didn't know like how involved they
Yep,
were.
they can
Are they
be
recruiting?
as involved
Yeah.
as you want. They do the recruiting,
Right.
yeah, yep.
Okay, here, do you want this list? So you can read them all off.
plenty of teachers and principals, but I haven't done superintendent.
What's that?
I said I've hired plenty of teachers and principals, but no superintendent in my previous life.
And then when you were driving bus, that was filling, or that'll be, have to be posted as well?
John,
Or it has been posted?
it hasn't been posted, but it will be. And that's something else you gotta decide if you're gonna go with a full-time superintendent or 80%.
I couldn't remember if, even while you were driving, if it was still posted until filled, and then you would not keep driving,
Oh,
or how that was.
I think we
I think
continuously
if you found a bus
post it.
driver,
You
you'd,
take it.
you'd
I would,
let
I
them
would,
drive the
if
bus.
someone else wanted to drive bus, I would let them drive bus, but. Yeah.
All right, we ready to go?
Yep.
Well, start at 7:27. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion and second to approve the January 27, 2025 meeting agenda with the addition of item H. Item H.
I'll make the motion, Hack.
Motion by Hack,
Sonstigard will second.
second by Sonstigard. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any board presenters? Written communications? Old business? On to new business. Need a motion and a second to approve the December 16th, 2024 regular school board meeting minutes and the January 21st, 2025 organizational meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sonstigard. Second by Hayes. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the invoices, financial statements, bank reconciliation, wire transfers, and purchase card statement.
Motion by Hack.
Motion by Hack,
I'll second.
second by Sonstigard. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need approval of personnel resignation and appointment of coaches. Are they gonna be, yeah, okay, so we'll do person, okay. I need a motion and a second to approve the resignations as presented. Resignations. Diane Lane, District Administrator, MARSS and Student Data Systems Coordinator, effective January 30th, 2025. Bob Lane, Business Careers PLTW Teacher, effective end of 2024-2025 school year. Wendy Storbeck, Art Teacher, effective the end of 2024-2025 school year. Kurt Storbeck, Elementary PE Teacher, effective end of 2024-2025 school year. Jeff Nelson, Superintendent, effective June 30th.
Motion by Hack.
Motion by Hack.
You can include the hires too. Normally we do.
It's, well,
That's fine.
they're two separate, so we'll just do it separately. Motion by Hack, need a second. Second by Hayes. Any discussion? There's a whole lot of teaching experience in that group. So thank everybody, all of them, and Jeff Nelson, thank you. And yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need a motion and a second to approve, oops, that's what that was, sorry. Okay, and that's why I should have listened to Joe.
That's okay, you can just add, can you add item I now, or do you have to amend the?
I don't know, I probably jacked it up. I jacked it up, my bad. You should have said, no, you need to do the coaches
We
too.
have to amend it.
This
We
is
have
where
to call for a
I'm not
motion
so
to
great
amend
at
it.
the
Okay,
rules of order.
The rules.
Need a motion and a, do we call for a motion and a
You have to
second?
call for a motion to amend it.
Okay, I need a motion to amend, new business, item C, I guess I.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kay Johnson,
I will second.
second by Sonstagard. Now what do we do?
No, you don't.
Make a motion to,
Okay,
approve
okay.
hires.
Make the motion to approve the hires, coaching hires, Andrea Nylander, varsity volleyball, Brian Sather, varsity softball, Tony Brose, assistant varsity baseball, Eric Tangy, assistant varsity baseball, and Chuck Merchant, junior high baseball.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sonstagard,
Hack, seconds.
Hack, that's a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, need a motion and a second to approve the policies as presented. 534, school meal policy.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sonstagard,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. All in any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024/25-27, directing the superintendent to make recommendations for adjustments to in curriculum programs and staff for the 2025-2026 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sonstagard,
I'll second.
second by Kay Johnson. Any discussion?
Is that something that you would put together and then send out to us? And
Yep, we do it every year.
Yeah.
yeah, oh, okay.
This is a standard motion. What comes out of it?
Yep.
Well, I
Might
thought this had
vary.
to do with the resignations and the consolidation of things. And
It might,
maybe
yep.
this teacher going over here.
Yep.
and-
So if I have to put someone on requested leave, you're giving me permission to, technically, you'll still approve that. I'm just formulating, here's a recommendation to
Yeah, gotcha.
make budget restraints.
Great.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024/2025-28 designating the 40 acres south of the ball fields, parcel ID 30.04.13.000 as a school forest. No motion. Motion by Hayes. I'll second it. Second by B. Johnson. Any discussion?
Is this like signing it away now, like down the road?
No.
No,
Can it
it's
be
still, the
just-
school owns it, and if you wanna get,
Hypothetically, if we need the space for
yep,
expansion, or, I mean, it's not
yep.
like it's.
It's not setting it in stone
Still
forever.
ours.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was
Yeah.
like
No.
a clause where it could never be developed, or if it was.
No.
What does the, not without going down a rabbit hole, what does designating a school forest actually do for us?
Well, we don't have to pay taxes for one.
Oh, there you go.
And you're not on the school forest committee?
No.
I'm not, but you probably knew. I mean, I think this was something that was discussed last year
Yep.
by the committee
Yep.
to move forward.
So, I won't go down the rabbit hole, but many years ago, Bruce Hasbark was on the school board. I'm trying to remember what year that was, doesn't matter. anyway, they, at that time, the board said that any, timber sales from the school forest would be put into the school forest account. And ever since then, that's part of the plan for the school forest, is how you manage the property. Obviously, the field south of the baseball fields won't have any timber sales. But the other property, there is some timber on that. So it just allows you to manage it. Focuses on making an outdoor education classroom for the kids.
Okay.
You don't get any extra money. There's grants though. I mean, we've done a lot of grant writing, so sometimes if you have a designated school forest, that's something that leads into other grants. I mean, we got grants for all the cross-country skis that we got, the outdoor wood platform classroom type stuff like that, so.
Okay, just curious. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2024/25-29 designating the 40 acres 2 miles south of the school and on the north side of the DNR forestry tree shed, parcelized 30.15.23.60 as a school forest.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sonstagard.
Second by Hack.
Second by Hack. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the sale of liquor at the arena on May 17th, 2025 for the Fair Board event.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sonstagard,
I'll second.
second by Kay Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other business? I will call the meeting adjourned at 7:39.